What's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And if you're new here, my name is Mirella Manelli. And no, I forgot to record a freaking intro video for this video. So we're just going to dive right in. So if you like educational content like I'm going to show you in this video, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any of this literally free education I'm giving you. So this client here, she had lots of highlights, lots of bleached highlights. And I'm really sad to say that this last job was from a stylist that I personally know. And she normally gets high lift highlights done, but for whatever reason, the stylist used lightener on her, and it is not a good look on my client because she actually has pretty white porcelain skin. So if you can imagine how washed out this actually makes her look, there's no depth, there's no dimension. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is adding all of that depth back in while bringing back those high lift highlights back and blending in her gray all at the same time. All right, so in the color room, and I have quite a bit to go over and kind of redo on my client's hair. So the last time she got her hair done was with another stylist, and she just wasn't too happy with the lightening process. She feels like way too blonde. So what I'm going to be doing is going back to our old high lift color, which I am excited about because high lift can do an amazing job of lift and deposit all in one step. But because she's so blonde, I need to go back in and add in some depth. So the way I'm going to do that is by low lighting her, especially in the interior, because we need a lot of depth on the underside in order for those highlights to kind of pop and give the illusion of some ribbons kind of happening. We basically want her natural gray to kind of like blend into this blonde, so that way her grays don't look so gray, right? She wants to add a little bit more warmth. So she loves a high lift with a natural gold. That's typically what we do. I believe we do 30 and 40. I'm gonna use look at her notes really fast. But as far as the low light is concerned, sorry, I'm like looking up here because this is where my color bar is at. Okay, so finally decided on the formula. I'm gonna be using the Ultra Lift in Ice, as well as the natural. So this is how I'm going to make the natural gold. And I'm going to mix this up 1 to 2 with 30 volume developer. The 30 volume is going to give you the most control possible, but because it's going to lift, it is going to expose some warmth and the underlying pigment. So that's where the ice is going to come into play. So I want to enhance the warmth in the gold, but also neutralize it a little bit. So that's why I'm going to add these two together in one formula. And then for her low light, I'm going to be using 10N with 8B. So the B is more of like a beige tone. So the natural is going to have, you know, a nice natural end result. We want that natural light reflection that comes through on natural hair. And the B is just to kind of beige it out just a little bit. So again, still, you know, enhancing warmth a little bit with the N, but beiging it out. So I love the B shades. They're just so rich and creamy. All right, guys, so this is how I start a lot of my hairline highlights. And if you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll see that I've usually start out with this V section right here. And even though I'm trying to put in a lot of depth for this client, she does want to see some blonde around her face. So I'm going to go ahead and maintain that. Plus, you can see the regrowth in this area is a little intense. So I kind of want to even this up a little bit and soften it as well. And I'm going to do that by using this comb, which is a Dreamweaver from Fremar. And the way that I like to use it is, in this case of blending, I'm going to take that entire section and weave it with the comb. So this is going to pre-highlight it for me. This is like the medium to thicker chunk weave, I would say. And overall, it's going to soften that really harsh chunk of blonde that she's kind of has in this hairline area. We want to make this really soft and subtle. So the best way that I love to highlight is by flipping my foil up towards the head. And this is such a cool hack if you can get over the learning curve of it by knowing how to fold the foil. And that's because the head is a much more flatter area than the bend of the neck. So this is why I love highlighting this way. It just makes it so much easier. So if you've tried this foiling hack before and you love it, or maybe you hate it, or you're going through a little learning curve, I would love to know down below. And if you're new to foiling and you want to learn more about the why behind foil placement technique and the effects that they create, please join me for some in-person education. I'm offering 3 different foiling masterclasses and hands-on workshop, you guys. I'm so excited about this class because you seriously will walk away feeling confident in everything from foil application, the processing, the formulation, and really ready to tackle any highlight look your client desires. To learn more about this foiling masterclass and hands-on workshop, be sure to check out the link in the description down below. Now back to this hair tutorial. So as you can see, just to get this highlight started around the back hairline, I'm doing 2 back-to-back highlights. So there's not a terrible amount of hair in between these foils. As a matter of fact, you can see for that next section, I'm just highlighting that entire chunk of slice. So this is about a 1/4 inch wide thick highlight where I'm just blending this in. And that's how I'm going to get the ultimate blend, especially using this high lift hair color. I'm not so worried about the saturation piece because I already have the lift and deposit working for me in this formula. That's why I love using high lift when possible. And then, of course, to marry these 2 sections together, I'm now going to do another set of 2 back-to-back highlights. And doing this sectioning right here, this is basically outlining the entire back frame. So when she wears her hair up, you're going to see those highlights kind of pop through. All right, so here is my 6 foil hairline highlight placement. This is literally my go-to for almost every single client that I have. And now we're going to add in the depth in the interior. So I'm basically assessing exactly my client's needs for the look that she wants. So I want to keep it bright on the outside, but we need to add the depth on the inside. That's what she is lacking right now. There were just too many highlights put in before. So now we're going to deepen this up. But here's a hack. You're not going to pull through this low light all the way down to the ends. We're just adding it in on the top and blending it into the ends, leaving them out so that way it goes from a dark into a light. This is how you're going to create that more subtle, soft depth that we want to create so it looks like she's been getting highlights and leaving some depth inside. For as much hair as my client has, this technique actually is not going to require an absorbent amount of foils because she already has enough blonde. I'm not looking to touch up so much of that until we get towards the top. So for this next few sections, I'm very focused on adding in the depth and creating some shapes within this as well. So for example, for this section here that's horizontal that I'm marrying the 2 side sections, my diagonal backs, for this section, I'm basically creating an inverted V section. So I'm just bringing down that dark towards the center and also leaving the ends out. So you really want to be purposeful and think in the terms of balayage on how things grow out and the way that the hair is going to fall. That's how you're going to be able to understand not only the direction of where your foil is placed, but also the placement of the color as well. So for example, you can see how I'm bringing this low light in a little deeper towards the interior and keeping the brighter pieces towards the outside. This is naturally how we like to see our highlights appear, especially in the interior of the head. We want to mimic the brighter pieces towards the outside. And this is very true even for our blondes, our brunettes, and that's where the tone and everything else comes into play, your formulation. But you can see here that she has an overall really beautiful natural base, and this is why I chose to use the high lift in addition to the demi-permanent. Once I get closer to the parietal ridge, this is where I'm going to start to introduce my high lift. So this is the exact section where I started adding in that lift and deposit all in one step. And then I'm starting on the same pattern with those diagonal backs and my horizontals. But this is where it starts to change also. Not only am I adding in the high lift, but right behind this high lift, I'm going to add in the depth that we need to create. Again, this is a very prime area where a lot of people will split their hair. So this was imperative. You can almost kind of see that chunk of blonde that she's got going on here. And that's what I want to diffuse. I want to blend that out. So hopefully you have the idea of the formula placement as well as my formula choice and where it goes and why. I'm going to continue on with this pattern right in the back section, and then moving on to the front section. This is where I'm going to incorporate a lot more of the low light, and there is a reason for that. It's because there was a ton more highlights placed than anything else here in the front. Now, I kept the high lift formula right around her face frame, and I didn't film that just because my client wasn't super comfortable being on camera, so she was okay having a little Aaliyah thing kind of going on with her face half covered here, so that's totally cool. But overall, the amount of ratio to highlight here did change, so we added 2 lowlights to every 1 highlight. I processed her for a full 45 minutes, and that's because the high lift needs the full amount of time to lift and deposit. So just a general rule of thumb, if you are using high lift hair color that is mixed up 1:2 mixing ratio with any developer, you do need to process it for the full time, and that's because its first 30 minutes is lifting and that last 15 minutes is depositing the neutralizing tone that you need. So that's really important that you do process for the full amount of time. And as a matter of fact, you can even leave it on longer. It is non-progressive in the sense that it will stop lifting, but it will continue to deposit some tone. So if you struggle with high lifts that just simply, are left too brassy or just not the right shade of blonde, you might need to either relook at your formula or maybe even just process it longer. Overall, when I'm able to control the amount of lift and deposit in any process that I'm doing, I'm going to go that route. So just remember, you don't always have to use bleach lightener in all of your highlight applications. So right here, I'm adding in a brand new color for the first time that I've never tried, and it's the Moroccan Oil demi-permanent toners that they have. I believe it's called Calypso, and I'm just trying it out because my team absolutely loves it, and I'm going to go ahead and elaborate a little bit more on this next clip.
I finally got to try the brand new Moroccan Oil demi-permanent shades, and my team has been using them this entire time. So we typically use either Kenra Professional Demi or the Moroccan Oil, and I just haven't gotten around to trying the demi-permanent from Moroccan Oil, so I finally took the opportunity with this client to try it out. So put in a little bit of 10G, and I had to mix up a total of, how many ounces did we do? 8 ounces of full bottle because she has a ton of hair, and we're just processing it. I'm just gonna leave it on for like 10-15 minutes or so, just kind of watch it. I'm hoping that the 10G just kind of like gives a nice light reflection around the front hairline because she has lots of white, and for all of the white gray hairs it just gives like a hint of warmth, because as we age we start to lose the warmth and color in our hair and our skin, so adding a little bit of more warmth to her is going to give it a little bit more of a youthful appearance, which I'm really excited about. I personally love her white hair. I think it looks beautiful on its own, but she definitely likes a little bit of warmth, light reflection, so fingers crossed, 10G looks beautiful.
And here is the final result. I am totally obsessed with how this turned out. I think I got it to a really great place, almost to what she had before. And this is the side by side. I mean, the results speak for itself. Look how much more blend we got, the dimension, the depth, the smoothness. And overall, I don't know, I'm kind of obsessed with how the Moroccan Oil Calypso did, the 10G. I mean, it blended in her gray. We got a beautiful light reflection. It warmed up her natural white hairs, and it also balanced out a lot of that brassy tone that she had when she first came in. Now, if there was something new that you learned or you loved, you hate it, I would love to know down below in the comments. And if you hate it, I don't know what to tell you, because this was, I think, a really kind of like seamless color correction, if you will. I mean, adding in the depth, I think I nailed it.
Alright, so that's a wrap, and I really hoped you enjoyed this really quick hair tutorial. If you did, please comment down below, let me know what you liked about it. give it a like, subscribe, share it with a friend. And if you would like more content like this sent right to your inbox, be sure to head on over to MirellaManelli.com and sign up for my newsletter.
Hey, it's Mirella Manelli, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to show you how to achieve a dimensional balayage look utilizing some highlights, and I'm even going to show you how to do some creative toning utilizing a base breaker while blending in gray using all Kenra color. But before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a tutorial. Now let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, my client has some previously highlighted hair. It's been about 6 months since she's been in. She has about 25% gray throughout the back, but in the front she has a natural gray money piece going on. So we're looking to just enhance that so she has a really easy grow out. She doesn't like to come into the salon too often, so a balayage look for her is going to be perfect. For her sectioning, I'm using her natural part and then just bringing down a 2-inch wide section right on top of that ear because we're just looking to enhance that natural money piece that she has going on. And we're going to be really focused on highlighting this head of hair and then doing some creative toning. So for this project, I'm using Kenra Professional Blue Powder Lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 20 volume developer. Because my model has really dark hair naturally, I know open air hair painting is not going to cut it even though we're going for a balayage look. So I am going to be foiling her entire head, but I also need to keep in mind that I need to create a lot of depth and background in order for these highlights to really pop. So I decided to get started with some internal highlights in the back, so I'm not doing any hairline highlights for the underside, plus she doesn't really wear her hair up too often. And I'm starting off with a V section. I did take a 1/4 inch wide section and then using my weaving comb by Fermar, it actually sections out the highlighted pieces for me. And in addition, using a coup board along with some foil is going to help create this balayage rooted look for me. I decided to use a V pattern right on this occipital because of the way that the highlights are going to drape all the way over to the ends of her hair. In addition, this is giving me enough background that is essential when creating a balayaged look. In addition to background, it's all about how we're weaving. So typically I would go in with a teasy light, but I decided that I was going to be using this weaving comb by Fermar along with a 1/4 inch thick section and this coup board. So all of these tools is really what's going to help create this look for me. You can also see the application that I'm using is the highlight is a lot higher on the exterior of the hair and a little deeper on the interior. So all of these things put together is what's creating this balayage look for me. But my application is also saturated and incubated inside of a foil, therefore giving me a lot more lift than had I just surface painted and let this process open air. Throughout this entire application, I'm going to be alternating between diagonal sections as well as horizontal sections, and I'm even going to create triangular sections as I get closer towards the top. What you'll notice with this center section is that I have a deep V application. So I decided to still carry on with that balayage look for this interior, but since this is a very centered section that I'm working with, it was imperative that I kept it nice and balanced. But as I work throughout the sides, you'll notice that all of the application is going to go a little higher when I'm dealing with the face frame. For this side section, you can see that I took a pretty deep diagonal section going from her temple area all the way back. And the reason for this is because we're still going to be adding in that money piece along with that front hairline application with some baby lights. So I still need enough depth going on right in this particular section above the ear. But my application for my lightener is in a half V, so it's slightly higher going towards the face and a little lower in the interior. So always keep that in mind when doing this type of balayage look and technique. Now, if you don't have these weaving combs available, this technique is still achievable. So the way you're going to want to do it is still take a 1/4 inch section and then do a really uneven weave right on top of that. And what this is going to do is pick hairs from the bottom of that 1/4 inch subsection as well as the top. And it's going to create a lot of depth and density for you, almost what a teasy light would create without the tease. From this point forward, every section that I'm going to take is going to be a triangular section. So you can see here, this is almost like a perfect square sitting on top of the head. And I'm just going to take a diagonal section from corner to corner, creating that depth. So the highlight is going to sit on top, and then my depth is going to have that triangular section, creating a lot of diffusion. Just remember that anything that you apply on the interior should be balanced. So it either needs to go from dark into light or that dark into light with a V pattern. Anything that sits on the exterior is going to have a little bit more lightness and brightness towards the hairline, but deeper and darker on that interior. So I'm going to continue on with this pattern until I get the entire back section complete with these types of highlights. And I'm going to finish off with a traditional mohawk section until I get to that money piece sectioning. But I do want to talk about this board that I'm using. The reason why I do like using it is because it has those teeth on the ends. So this helps push back any little flyaways or hairs, again, creating that teasy light effect for me, but without really fully teasing it. So that's really why I love using this board. But again, if you don't have this tool, not a problem. You can still achieve this look with a traditional weaving comb and a regular balayage board, or just simply foil. Just remember that foil is needed when working with this dark of hair. So in order to create a really cool end result, you're going to need to lift the hair past that level 7. So a level 8 or even 9 is essential to creating a really nice, beautiful, neutralized and cool tone. Now I finally got to the top, so I have a pretty wide triangle to finish off with. So I'm gonna just finish off with all horizontal placement from this point forward, but still keeping in mind that I want that dark to light effect. So I'm still taking those 1/4 inch sections with the weaving comb and then still using that coup board to push the hair up. And this is what's going to really create that balayage effect for me, because I have enough background on each of my sections. So I'm just going to finish this right on up until I get to that very front hairline that I sectioned out the very beginning. One thing to keep in mind is the amount of gray that we're blending in. So as I get more closer to this top and front hairline, I know that she has a lot more gray to blend in, so my subsections are going to be a lot smaller than what I created in the back, because in the back section she has about that 25% gray. It's pretty sporadic, so I'm not too worried about blending in each and every single gray hair. But when I do get closer to that front, I want to create as much blonding as possible so we have a lot more lightened pieces to work with. This is really important to know, especially when we're customizing these balayage looks for our client and we're incorporating gray blending. So it's important to really pay attention to the gray pattern that each and every single client has, so that way you create the lowest maintenance possible. Now I'm going to continue on with these horizontal sections all the way to that front hairline, but like I mentioned, they're going to get smaller and smaller subsections as I get closer to where that natural gray money piece that she has. I decided after speaking with her that I was going to keep this nice and centered instead of incorporating her part, because she did say that she wears her hair in different directions. So I didn't want to compromise that in any way. So keeping the application of these highlights really balanced was key in this blonding portion. For these last few foils that I'm going to be putting in, just note that each of the subsections are about 1/4 of an inch wide and then graduate to 1/8 of an inch wide. And then I'm finishing off with back to back with really no hair in between each of these foils. I am taking the lightener all the way to the root area because, again, since she has a lot of gray hair going on here, I want to make sure that I'm creating a more blonded look and not leaving her natural gray, even though we are going to be blending in whatever was left out when we get ready to do her creative toning portion. One thing that I'm really careful with in my application is making sure not to overlap the lightener, especially around this hairline. So I am leaving out her ends, and if it is a little bit dark, I do weave those pieces out, but it's just something to keep in mind so you don't create breakage, because we definitely don't want that, especially for that money piece area. Now, the reason why I left this front hairline last is because usually the hair right along the hairline is a little bit more finer in texture. Plus, she's already gray. There's not a ton of pigment to lift out. So this portion is actually going to lift pretty quickly in comparison to the back. So only processing her for about 20 minutes or so, and definitely checking on the foils. But overall, she does have virgin hair. It's going to lift nice and evenly. So that's really the primary reason why I left this hairline out. Plus, I don't really like leaving lightener for too long on the hairline pieces because, again, it's typically finer in texture and a little bit more fragile. After I'm completely done applying my foils on that top section, I'm just going to apply a few foils on each of the sides. So I do this by combing the hair completely up and then weaving the hair towards me, creating the perfect customized highlight for your client's hairline. I decided to switch up my brush here because I am working with a smaller section, and I do like to get pretty close to the new growth for these particular highlights along the hairline. So I'm still bringing that lightener all the way down, making sure to leave out the previously lightened pieces and securing these foils on the ends. I'm going to do 2 back-to-back foils with no hair in between. So this is just going to create a nice jaggedy edge towards the top. So it's not a harsh line of demarcation, but much more softer when you're doing 2 back-to-back weaves. Something to note is that I am leaving out her little baby hairs right on that top section by her temple area. They're just really tiny and really short, and I think they're going to blend in perfectly when we do the gray blending portion for her toner application. So on this third foil that I'm applying, there is a little bit of hair in between. So this is what would be considered a back-to-back BB light with a little bit of hair in between, still keeping those ends out because I want to maintain the integrity of her hair and no overlapping of those previous blonde pieces. And then for this fourth foil, I'm actually just going to take this entire section, somewhat mimicking what we did on the interior for the back section. So this is pretty wide. So this one's going to be a little bit more of a rooted effect versus those tiny little baby highlights that I did on that hairline. Once I get both sides applied, I'm now going to let her process room temperature, but this is a great time to go ahead and decide what formula you want to create for this gray blending. So I'm going to be using Studio Styles Express, and I want something pretty close to her natural. So this is why I decided to use that 6N with the 5 ash. So I want something really cool because I don't want a warm effect, and that 5 ash is going to bring it down a little bit darker. So this is why I decided to use the 6N in addition to the 5A, equal parts with its dedicated 20 volume developer. For this creative toning application, I'm just taking her right down the center and then leaving that money piece out that we created and completely separating it out because we're going to apply this Studio Stylus Express, which is a 10-minute deposit color system in the back. So I need to work really, really quickly. To make this application really easy and quick, I'm going to be applying the Studio Stylus Express from the bottom all the way up. So you can see that I'm applying on that first 2 to 4 inches and then using a comb to comb down this color. And the overall goal is to bring this color down about where the highlights start. So keep in mind that we did that balayage effect in the entire interior in the back. So you can almost see exactly where those highlights begin and end, and we want to help diffuse that line. Another technique that I like to use is simply my hands. So as soon as I get that color on, I'm going to comb it through and then further bring it down with my hands, creating that diffused line because we don't want a line of demarcation. You can almost start to visualize exactly how this is going to look, which is really exciting. So anybody that has gray hair that needs that blending in, but likes that hair painting or balayage look, all of these pieces kind of come together. Everything from the highlight and the foiling and the painting that we did, along with the Studio Stylist Express that's going to help cover and blend in that gray, diffuse that line of demarcation, and then we're going to get ready to tone those mids and ends so that way we can control a lot of those unwanted yellow tones. Once I get the entire back section complete, I'm now going to switch up my brush, work on that front section, and just apply the Studio Stylist Express formula on the first ½ inch of that new growth. So exactly where that blonde starts. I want to help diffuse that line as well as blend in any gray on that new growth. I'm just tapping that right on in to exactly where I want the Studio Stylist Express to live. And then once I get done applying this, I'm going to immediately mix up my secondary formula for her mids and ends, which is 7SM in demi-permanent at a 1:2 mixing ratio with its 9 volume dedicated developer. And then I'm going to apply that to those mids and ends. But I already started that timer for the Studio Stylist Express because it is a 10-minute color system. So the timer starts as soon as I'm done. So I'm also going to get on this demi-permanent pretty quickly. If you wanted the maximum amount of control, what I would do is process your Studio Stylist Express separately, wash and rinse, and then apply your toner formula for the maximum of 20 minutes. The overall goal here is to blend the line from the Studio Stylist Express into that demi-permanent. So this is why you'll see that I'm constantly combing through, and I'm also using my hands to further blend in. So that SSE is really working pretty quickly, and I have about a 5-minute wiggle room. So as soon as I get this demi-permanent on, I'll just process for an additional 5 minutes and then take her back to the bowl, do a really good rinse, shampoo, and even condition or treatment with a nourishing mask. For her final style, I gave her a really great blowout and gave her some really beautiful curls, but using my all-time favorite Kenra Volume Spray 25. This is a throwback can from 1987, and yes, it's been around that long. It's honestly an amazing spray. It's flake-free, and I love it for creating long-lasting curls. Typically, I use this hairspray for setting the hair as my finishing spray, but I also do love it for a good long-lasting hold that is totally brushable. So this is a 1 1/4 inch Marcel iron, and you can see how well the curls are holding and then even how well they brush out. And here's the final result of this dimensional balayage look, utilizing some highlights along with some creative toning using Studio Stylist Express. So just to give you a little recap, I decided to use blue powder lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 20 volume developer for all of those internal highlights along with her money piece. And once she was done processing, I decided to go in with a creative toning formula and base breaker in order to blend in her gray, utilizing Studio Stylist Express 6N with 5A with its dedicated 20 volume developer mixed 1:1. And then for those mids and ends, I used 7SM in demi-permanent at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 9 volume developer, and then processed her for just 10 minutes. And to finish off her style, I used a 1 1/4 inch Marcel iron and my favorite hairspray, Volume Spray 25. So I really hope you enjoyed this hair tutorial, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe. And comment down below what your favorite part of this entire tutorial was, and I'll be sure to respond. Be sure to follow me on my other social channels like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all under Mirella Manelli. If you're a hairstylist or business owner and you love listening to podcasts, be sure to check out my podcast called Hair B&B. It's a podcast where I share all of my hair and beauty business hacks. And if you want to learn more about my podcast and all of my free education, be sure to check out the description down below. Be sure to head on over to MirellaManelli.com if you want to subscribe to my email list, and where you can also find some more free education. And finally, be sure to check out my other hair tutorials right here on this channel, and I will see you next time. I got a client that wants to embrace their natural gray, but they would love some hair extensions for some volume or even some length. Well, I'm really excited to share with you that Donabella just came out with 3 brand new custom gray blends in hybrid weft and tape-ins. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how I did a custom blended install, perfect for my client that wants to embrace her natural gray for that seamless blend. And if you're new here, my name is Mirella Manelli. I'm a hair educator and salon coach, and I'm super excited to get this video started. But before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. Now let's go ahead and get started. This is my gorgeous client, and she is ready to embrace her gray. Now, she doesn't have a crazy amount of gray hair, but she does have just enough around her face frame, and she just wants a easy, seamless journey as she starts to grow this natural hair out. Now, she has experienced some hair loss within the last 2 years, and while has really beautiful, gorgeous, healthy hair, she is still lacking some of that density, and part of that just kind of comes with how our hair changes as we age. So I thought adding in just 1 row of hybrid weft hair extensions would do just the trick. So first we're going to color match her. Now, because she doesn't have a bunch of gray, I do need to add in a base shade. So we decided to go in with a brunette color. And then for the gray shade, I tried to match it as close as possible to her front gray areas. Now, because we're only adding in 1 row and we want to add in fullness, I wanted to also match the length of her hair as close as possible. So an 18-inch weft was the go-to length. And then for the 2 colors that we decided to go with was color 2, which was going to match her base color as close as possible. And then the brand new hybrid weft color 50 medium natural gray. And that matched her gray hairs in the front perfectly. Now I'm going to show you a little later, once we do the install, how I customized this sew-in so that way it looked the most natural as possible, because there is a little trick to it. So what you see here is I've measured out exactly where this weft is going to live. I like to use my hands a lot, just kind of feel the roundness of the head. And then I use my comb along with the pulling up the hair in comb over trick, just to make sure that you're not going to see the point of origin of those hair extensions. And this just kind of helps guide me to the perfect partings and placement necessary so you have a really hidden install. So now that I have all of these really clean sections in place, I love using my hairspray. And the hairspray just basically helps get rid of a lot of those flyaways and keeps them at bay as we do this install. She actually has quite a bit of baby hairs, which made this install a little bit more difficult. One other key player that we're going to be using is the silicone beads in dark brown. So your beads should match your root color. That's super important, just making sure that they do stay hidden. Now, as far as the installation of these silicone beads, like I mentioned, she does have tons of little baby hairs. So taking really clean partings as I work and inserting my beads right at the base is going to be key in making sure that we're not going to have any crosshairs whatsoever. I also like taking wide sections here so that way I can make this bead installation really quick. And I do this by taking about a 4-inch wide of a section. It's also nice and even on the underside, so there's lots of uniformity that comes with this installation. So that's particularly why I like doing this type of like fast install with the duckbill clip, because it does hold all of that excess hair, plus it holds all of the hair below it. So there's lots of things that are kind of happening here that help me ensure that I don't have any crosshairs, just like this that just happened. So I just need to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on all of those little baby hairs so the installation is as comfortable as possible. And then also you don't want to have any type of scalp irritation issues that can come with crosshairs getting into beads that they just don't belong in. So if you find that you're still having tons of little baby hairs and frizziness, just use a little bit more hairspray and a couple more clips like I just did here, and this will help the installation of those beads go by seamlessly. Now, if you're new to hair extensions, silicone beads are a must when doing a hybrid weft installation, and that's because the only thing living inside of these beads is the actual natural hair itself. So you need something to not only hold it securely, but also to avoid any slipping. So that's kind of what the silicone bead does. It helps protect the hair, and it also helps it prevent from slipping its way right on down the shaft. Once I have all of my silicone beads installed, we're now ready to measure, cut, and sew in the weft. But first I wanted to show you something. Here are the two colors we're going to be using. So there's that gray weft and that color 2 weft. And typically I would install it this way if I were doing 2 colors. However, I'm not going to get the best blend for the type of hair color she already has. So in order for me to achieve that, I needed to sandwich that gray weft in between the color 2 on both sides. So you're going to see I flip it over and there's a little bit more brown there. So no matter how she moves her hair, whether she's wearing it up or down, we're going to get the best blend possible. So now I'm going to measure out my thread. Now I start out by measuring the width of my weft, and then I measure that out an additional 8 to 10 times. And I do this because I like to double up my thread. So basically that means I'm looping that thread right on through my needle and having 2 sides to my thread. And I like doing this because it just ensures more security and longevity of this cotton thread, because as she washes it and dries it, the thread is going to expand and contract much like natural hair. So it does mimic it. And in order for me to make sure that it's super secure, this is just an added little step that I like to do to ensure that. Now, one additional tip is you're going to want to make sure that you are always sewing on the right side and the left side of those silicone beads, never right in the center. And the reason for that is because you want this to have a very easy grow out and then also an easy move up appointment when she comes and visits you for the next 6 weeks. It's also really important that you're sewing down this weft as flat as possible. I feel like that's like the number one complaint that a lot of people will say, is that it's feeling bulky or the edges aren't laying down flat enough. So you do want to make sure that you practice this part enough so that way your clients feel comfortable and also they have that longevity for the next 6 weeks in between, their next appointment. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on down. So we got this full weft installation, and now it's time to trim it. So that way it blends in seamlessly with her hair. And I feel like we got a pretty great blend here. She does have naturally a lot of different colors going on, but overall I'm looking at this and it looks pretty great. We don't have to do any color correcting, which is amazing, especially with this gray shade. So I'm just pulling these sections down, and because she wants the maximum fullness, I'm barely cutting right below the length of her natural hair on those top layers. And then I take my texturizing shears and just texturize the perimeter so that way it gives the most natural end result and effect. I personally like doing the texturizing shears because naturally nobody's hair is super bulky on the end, so that's just kind of like an added little tip there. You want to mimic as much as possible how people's hair naturally looks without regular blunt haircuts in between, because long hair just doesn't look blunt like that. It's super rare that you will find somebody with a super blunt one straight across haircut. Now for the styling, I really like using a texture spray right before doing any curls. And the reason for that is because typically hair extensions are super soft, silky right out of the package. And a lot of times they feel even and appear healthier and shinier looking than your client's natural hair. So I like to roughen up the texture a little bit by adding that texture spray. And then of course, using this super fat curling iron from T3 to just finish it off. I always like just adding a little something special instead of them styled straight. But of course, if my client wants them straight, we know we got a really great blend to do so. Now here is the final result. Here is her side-by-side. Look at how much fuller her hair looks, but I really am loving that little pop of gray hair that she's got going on, because that's what her hair naturally looks like. She's starting to get that gray hair on her face frame. So it definitely compliments her. She completely just loves it. She's rocking it. It's super cute on her. And here's a little under the hood shot. You can see that gorgeous blend. And in this natural indirect light, you can even see those gray hairs right on the underside. So as she gets grayer, we'll be able to choose from 2 other shades to have a true customized look. And this is exactly why I love hair extensions so much, because they can be very transformative in the most major or subtle way possible. Now, as far as cost is concerned, I can't speak for everybody, but what you can expect to pay at my salon is $200 for a 1-row installation plus the cost of hair. I really hope you love this look as much as I do.
Put it in her mouth. That's okay, we'll leave it.
So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and comment down below which gray shade you want to try and maybe which one I should try next. Don't forget to give me a follow on my other social channels like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all under Mirella Manelli.
Hey, it's Mirella Manelli, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm gonna take my client who's naturally silver gray, and she's got some old grown out highlights, and we're actually working on transitioning her to a lesser maintenance. And usually what we do is lots and lots of baby lights, and it's been about 4 or 5 months since I've seen her, so her baby lights have grown out beautifully. We're gonna add in a little bit of highlights, not as many as we did before, and we're actually gonna go in with a cool icy toner to help blend in her natural gray into those highlights, so we have a much even smoother grow out. Overall, we want to get her to a point where she's just doing glazes. We don't want to do any highlights anymore. So I think it's perfect service for her. I'm really excited to share it with you. But before we move on, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a tutorial. Now let's go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned, my client hasn't been in for a few months, and she used to have a super heavy baby light with a cool toner, and it's actually faded out beautifully and it's blending in great with her natural hair. But as you can see, she has lots of white growing in, so now we just want to really enhance her natural hair and how beautiful it is. The overall goal is to create less maintenance, so that way every 6 to 8 weeks she's just coming in for a simple cool toner glaze instead of having to do a full baby light every single appointment. What I'm going to be using for this project is Kenra Professional Blue Powder Lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 20 volume developer and my favorite Fremar foils. If you want to check out any Fremar products, you can tap the link in the description of this video and it'll take you all to my favorite products. For her sectioning, I'm going to be using her natural part as my guide, and I'm going to also be going in diagonally with all of my application for the foils, except when I get towards the top, I'm going to start pivoting, and you'll see what I mean by that as you continue to watch this video. Now for the actual weave itself, I'm taking 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch subsections and then weaving on top of that. And I want to create something in between a baby light and a traditional highlight. And each section's probably going to be a little bit different. And the reason for that is because, as you can see, she's much whiter towards the hairline and more darker in that interior. So I just want to add a little bit more heavier highlight for that interior, because that's going to allow for the natural grays and the highlights and everything to really blend in. Again, that overall goal is to create a lot less maintenance for her, but also a slightly brightened effect. But we don't want to constantly be doing back-to-back baby lights every single appointment. So that's really why I decided to go in with this particular application. So once I get that first foil in, I'm going to start creating small or slightly pie sections, and what that means is towards her part it's going to be the more narrow side of the section, and towards the interior it's going to be the more wider part of the section. And again, you'll start to see as I pivot, because once I get towards that top, I want to come in horizontal to or parallel to her parting. The overall goal here is to create a very natural end result that is going to have the lowest maintenance possible. So that's only going to be about 16 foils total that I'm going to put into my client's hair.
I decided to use the blue powder lightener because it does give me the most pow out of all the lighteners possible. It has the highest alkalinity and the most lift possible that I'm going to get. And I love this lightener, especially for transitioning anybody that wants a very cool end result because it gives me the most lift. Plus, the blue in the blue powder does help a little bit with toning as it's lifting. So I'm going to continue on with this side. There's only going to be about 7 foils total on her right side. And then once I get those foils in, I'm going to start working on the opposite side, going in the same exact fashion, except we're going to change it up just a little bit when we start to work in her fringe area. So you can see I still took some diagonal sections, and I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. So I apologize that I didn't get to show you that very front section, but it's very similar to the other side, with the exception that this side is basically much wider than what I was working with on the opposite side. So I decided to split this entire section up into 2 different rows until I got closer up towards the head. And I'm still pivoting here and creating those pie sections. So I personally like to work in areas or in spaces that I can control most, that are no wider than the foil that I'm working with. And I also love tri-folding, and the reason why I love tri-folding is it prevents the foil from slipping, in addition to the proper amount of product being applied. But you can see here that it's still angled, which is going to give me the most softest transition. And then right when I get towards that top section, you'll see how it really becomes more horizontal. So this is a perfect shot right here that shows you exactly how it lays right on top of her part area. Also note how baby fine and really a true baby light this top section is. And the reason for that is because you can see the transition of her natural grays and her natural hair color, the darker gray that you see. So this is why I decided to go in with this application right on the top. If you want to check out more videos that are pertaining to the direction of highlighting, check out my other video called 4 Foil Placements and the effects they create. The link is going to be right here at the top, and you can check that out. And I think it's a great video to explain direction and how it really can change the entire look. Now I'm going to process her for just 20 minutes. Generally with working with this light of hair, 20 minutes is just enough, but sometimes I will process up to 40 minutes with my blue powder lightener. So after she was done in that 20 minutes, I took her over to the bowl, removed all of her foils, and then did a pre-tone with a blue purple shampoo and got ready for her final toner. So for the toner, I did apply it onto damp hair, and I used 9 violet metallic with 10 silver metallic at a 1:1 with 9 volume developer, applied it onto the mids to ends first, processed that for 10 minutes, and then applied it to the root area for an additional 10 minutes. And we really just wanted to create a nice sheer tone that was nice and cool and still natural. And here's the final result of this silver blend, and I think it looks really gorgeous. A great starting point for that transition that we're looking for in her hair, so that way she doesn't have to do so many highlights and we can just start glazing her up into a nice cool silver shade. She's really happy with it. Finished it off with a little trim, and I really hoped you loved this hair tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe, and be sure to check out my other hair tutorials right here on this channel. And comment down below what your favorite part of this entire tutorial was. I would love to know. What's up, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Mirella if you're new here, and I'm a hair educator and salon coach. And today what I'm doing is transitioning someone from a bleach and tone into highlights. So we're gonna try to go more over to the lower maintenance, not have to see her so often. So overall, doing a bleach and tone, you want to see clients somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So this client would love to come in every 6 to 8 weeks, and just overall just spend a lot less time in the salon while still maintaining her blonde. Now here's the kicker: she is a natural level 1, true natural level 1, and
she likes to be silver, so we know we got to get her to a 910. This is super challenging. I'm super excited to get this started, but before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. Now let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so let's do this. Let's transition this bleach and tone client into a highlight client, so that way she's only coming in every 8 to 12 weeks, ideally for her. So a couple things. She is a natural level 1, and the reason why I know she's a natural level 1 is because there is absolutely no light reflection whatsoever in this canvas of her root area. It's definitely a 1, and especially so because I am using Kenra color. There is no level 2 in Kenra color. It's just a 1 and a 3, and that's because it's too hard for the human eye to differentiate between a 1 and a 2. Now, a couple things we got going on. You can see she's got lots of breakage, which is another reason why she wants to transition. So when she told me she wanted to move from bleach and tone into highlights, I told her, hey, come back to me in 8 weeks when your hair's grown out a little bit more, so that way we have enough root to kind of go and do this. So in order to prep her canvas and also protect it, I'm going to be using K18. So the way I do that is I generously spray her hair down with a water bottle because we need to dampen it. This is going to do a couple things. The water in the pH level does help swell open the cuticle and allows for the K18 product to kind of do its job. So that's really why we're wetting it down just a little bit. Now, the reason why I love K18 so much is because when the hair gets damaged, the polypeptide chains, which are the keratin chains that make up the structure of the hair strand, become weakened and basically break over time as you lighten the hair. And essentially, K18 basically targets those peptide chains, basically mimicking the natural structure of that keratin building blocks, which is the amino acid sequence. And when you use K18, this is going to, over time, help strengthen the hair, and she is a perfect candidate for K18. So this is going to be a home regimen I'm going to send her home with. So I'm going to allow her to leave this on for at least 4 more minutes, and then I'm going to go mix up.
Ready. So Melissa was fixing my 90s do. I'm trying to bring the bump back, okay? So we've got some K18 going on. Oversaturated it with the K18 because she's so blonde and over processed. Of course, she's, you know, level 1 to level 10, and if you don't think she's a level 1, tell me down below in the comments, but she's a natural level 1, and I know so because I just do. Okay. Lightener wise, normally I would probably go in with my Kenra favorite, but I think what I want to use on her is the oligo, and I normally use I don't know, let me think. Honestly, I don't know what to do. What
I know, because she is
so I got a lot of choices here for lighteners. I got Kenra Professional, I have Joico, I have Oligo. From those lighteners, what would you choose for this canvas? Remember, we're trying to go to a level 10 here. All right, so after some much debate and thinking here, I'm going to be using the Simply Blonde. Now, they did reformulate this, so it does have a little bit more lift and power out of it, which is nice. And it does have the bond technology. Even though we're doing the K18, I'm going to layer this in. I'm going to start off with 20. Normally, if a canvas like that, you want to do a bleach and tone, I personally, this is not manufacturer's instructions. This is just me personally breaking the rules, so don't follow this advice. But just in all transparency, I normally would probably go in with a 30 vol with Joico, because her hair looks like difficult to lift. It's filled with pigment. So she does have prior breakage from a previous appointment. So just to keep the integrity of her hair, I'm gonna be using this. So let's go ahead and start out. Actually, that's a little too much. I like to work with 1 ounce at a time. Here's a little hack. Boop, stick your little scooper in backwards so it'll fit in there nicely.
You don't have to dig in.
Yeah. So the reason why Kenra's lighteners are reformulated is so that way we don't have to have a gazillion bottles. So we're just gonna use this gray bottle, which is so exciting. I'm gonna do 1 to 2. And I like using my whisk. And you can see it mixes up really nicely. Like literally everything's the same. And as far as like processing time, in case you're asking or wondering, looks like you can do up to 45 minutes. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on this bad boy.
All right, so now that I have my lightener mixed up, I'm now going to be putting it in a separate bowl, the Kenra Professional Rapid Hydration, and I'm actually just going to use this as a treatment as well as a buffer tool for what I'm about to do. So I dried her hair 100% dry because I want it like that before we even get started. And I did add in some highlights around her hairline. She was very adamant about having highlights right there because she wanted the blonde. So I decided to work with her a little bit. I did tell her we might get some more breakage, but it is what it is. So I basically put the lightener on right onto the roots and then layered that rapid hydration right onto that bleach line. So this is going to help couple things. It's going to help the lightener or prevent it from swelling onto the blonde, and it basically doubles up as a mask as well. So I'm putting 2 back-to-backs with very little hair in between. It's going to make her really happy, and just got to be really careful here. So I would personally suggest going in with 10 vol for something this compromised in the nape area, but this is a perfect foil right here. You can see how I put on the lightener and then put the mask right on that foil line. And I am making little baby foils because I don't want the compromised ends to touch the bleach line. So right here is where she had like the most breakage, and I basically was like, this is like a no-go here, but I will go up a little higher. So we again had to compromise with this. Ideally I would have just left this entire hairline out just to kind of give it a rest. So when she comes back, we'll take a look and see exactly how it's doing. So she's definitely going to go home with very strict instructions on how to care for her hair. But overall, I wanted to be able to at least show you this because this is kind of like my go-to placement, especially for like really healthy hair. So, you know, proceed with caution anytime you have somebody with this much breakage on their nape area. There's lots of different reasons why that could happen. And it could be from like jewelry, it could be from over processed, lots of different things. One more little tip is I do like to do my foils upside down on this nape area because this is where the head is kind of rounded. It is a little bit of a learning curve if you first start to do it, but I promise as you start doing your highlights like this, you will get addicted to it because it does make it so much easier, and you can get way more closer than you can if you laid the foils right on down. So once I'm done with those 6 foils on that hairline, now I'm going to go in with my Dreamweaver comb, which you know I love this thing, and I'm adding in some highlights. Now these are all triangular backgrounds that I'm creating. You know that I love those, and what that means is I'm taking diagonals and then I'll be doing some horizontals as well. This is kind of like my go-to global placement that makes it really quick. One thing I do want to disclose is she wanted to keep the appointment as short as possible, knowing that this was a big project. So basically what I had suggested to her is let's do bigger sections in the back, and we can always tackle it, you know, the next time she comes in. And she was totally fine with that. So these are a lot more wider sections in the back than I personally would suggest for a bleach and tone blend, but we're gonna make this work a little bit. Ideally, if you did want to do the ultimate blend, I would do back-to-back highlights throughout. That way you don't have to worry about this foil line, and it is very tedious regardless, but I am gonna do that on the top. So you'll see me doing that a little bit later, and especially like right on the crown area. This is where I'm going to start packing in the foils a little closer together. So anything that I can do to accommodate my guest. Now keep in mind she was trying to keep this appointment at 4 hours. I was like, I will try my very best, but we ended up finishing at 6 with what we did. So I think if I had gone in with a true back-to-back like I really wanted to, we would have easily been here for 8 to 10 hours doing this foil placement, but this was the next best thing, and hopefully you'll see why at the very, very end. The number one thing here that was my saving grace was, in addition to the K18, was a rapid hydration by applying it right onto that bleach line. So right here is where I'm going to start fanning out my section and really packing in these foils. Now this entire section here is basically like a pizza slice. It is a little wider on the right side and more narrow on the left side. And I am splitting up my foils into two just because it does get a little wide. Now I'm not into the origami foil thing, but if you do that, great, go for it. And if not, this is the next best thing. This is like the old school way of doing it. It's tried and true. So now this is where I am continuing on with my pizza slices. This is making it really, really narrow on that right side. So it's going to give the illusion that we have tons and tons of foils when really we do not have them back to back. I'm still creating enough depth right where her cowlick would essentially be, or anybody's cowlick would be. Now I'm going to finish off this entire crown section with this fanned out placement that I absolutely love. And if you want to check out a different video that also uses this, but it has a much different end result, you can check out the link in the description of this video. I'm honestly so excited that Kenra reformulated all of their lighteners, because while I loved the old Beyond Bond, this new Beyond Bond gives me the most amazing lift, and you'll see that, like I said, at the end of this video. And here is the full placement that I got going on. You can kind of see how it's fanning out. It's a little bit more narrow on the right side and then gets wider on the left. And this is something that you just want to like pay attention how their cowlick is placed. But this is basically making the foil placement almost invisible when you do that. So right here in the front, she also has a little bit of BB hairs kind of going on. I left the most smallest sliver for her hairline completely out. You can see it's clipped away on the left-hand side. But for the rest of the interior here, I'm also going to kind of fan this out. So what I have here, same thing, that rapid hydration and the Beyond Bond in 20, just making some little baby mini highlights right through here. So here you can see those little tiny baby hairs, and now I'm adding in again that very carefully placed highlight. So this was another compromise we had to make because again, she still wants that blonde right around her hairline. So from here I only added in, what would you say, 4 foils kind of going on. It's also fanned out, but it finishes off horizontally right there on the arch of the eyebrow, leaving that mohawk section completely separated. So I'm really, like I said, obsessed with this placement, and in that other video I kind of cover it a little bit more in detail. By the way, all of the links to all of the tools and products and information that I did for this look is in the description of this video. Now for the very front section, I left that hairline right on out because there was just too much breakage for my liking. That was just kind of like a no-go. So again, this was our compromise, putting that rapid hydration right onto that foil line. Again, it's going to be your saving grace. It's going to help prevent the product from swelling and causing even more breakage, in addition to the K18. I always trifold all of my foils, and the reason why I do that is so it prevents the lightener from actually touching the ends of the hair. I see this way too often where stylists will just fold it right in half, and there might be lightener or hair that shouldn't be bleached at all, and then it touches, and that's how we get breakage or patchiness and lots of other things. I'm only adding in 2 back-to-back foils right here on the front that are horizontal, and then I'm going to move on to a vertical placement right on the top. So it would be vertical if you're standing right in front of your client, or horizontal if you're standing on the side of them. But if you want to learn more about foil placement and the effects they create, be sure to check out that video. It's one of my more popular videos. I'll put the link in the description to that one as well. Something that I did forget to mention is I did check on those back foils on the hairline as soon as I was done with that back section, just to take a little peek at them, and everything was processing so beautifully, and so I continued to move on. So once I get this top section done, I'm going to check the back again, and we're going to let her process for 30 minutes, check it, and then a little longer. All right, so we got all the foils in. She's processing. I took a peek at the back. It's actually lifting really beautifully, so we gotta hurry up and mix up our next step, which is
NUA. So this is going to be applied right on the line where the natural meets the blonde, and the whole intention is so that way we can help diffuse that line. So we're gonna apply it, just drag it down a little bit, and this is probably what we're gonna also color melt her with later, right onto the root. So the whole idea is so that way it just looks like a softer line. It looks like she's been getting some highlights done for a little while. So yeah, we're gonna go in with this, and just to double check, I looked on this chart right here, and this is where the NUA lives. So I love this chart because this tells me that it's kind of like a blue, slightly green base. It's mostly blue, ultra ash. So this is gonna be perfect on top of that really platinum that she has. I don't know, hopefully it just doesn't turn green. I'm also gonna mix this up 1 to 1. I want as much saturation as possible with this. I'll mix up a 1.5 because that's what I think I need. We're gonna use the 9 ball. We're gonna go to right there, almost. Boop. There we go.
Now, because her hair is so freaking light, I am spraying it down with some water right onto that mid zone. So that way it gives me a little bit more comfortability when I go through with the 6 NUA. I'm also layering in some more hydration mask right onto that blonde area and leaving about an inch after that foil line, so I can just kind of like bring it down and diffuse it. I do use a combination of a comb just to kind of like drag it down a little bit, and then from here I'm going to use my hands. So I basically did this technique throughout the entire back section. It was very, very tedious. And then for the sides, I didn't necessarily wet it down because these are much more thinner sections, but I did use a combination of the rapid hydration and then painted on the 6 NUA right onto that foil line, and it gave me a really gorgeous blend, and you'll see what that looks like as soon as it starts to wash out in the bowl. Now for the back, I started to kind of freak out because she had some porosity issues, and this is where I totally like shot myself in the foot, because what I should have done was use porosity equalizing spray instead of the water, and basically had to go back through really quickly and mix up a really low developer lightener and basically try to get rid of these little spots, just kind of like buff them out right before I had to shampoo it. So this, I basically spent like 5 minutes just basically picking this out, and then from there I was able to completely rinse it out. But this was me being really meticulous, and this is just was like a little learning moment for me. As long as I've been doing this in my career, there's always like little mistakes sometimes where I'm like, oh, I could have totally did that better. But you can see how it washed out. Her hair lifted really beautifully, and I was already really happy with the blend that we got right at the root. So I'm so excited, because that's really ultimately the hardest part, is blending in that root area into the bleach, so it looks like she's just been getting a bunch of highlights instead of that really harsh line of a bleach in tone. So essentially you can already see the blend. It's just so gorgeous. I absolutely am already in love with it. So once I get this 100% shampooed and rinsed, I'm then going to pre-tone her. So I'm using Kenra Professional SV Rapid Toner 1-to-1 with Demi Permanent, just putting it right on damp hair. And I'm actually going to let this process for a full 20 minutes because I want the maximum deposit possible. And one of my challenges with this canvas is because it is so overly compromised and so porous, it's very difficult to hold on to hair color, especially a silver tone. Now, normally the SV Rapid Toner only processes for 5 minutes, but I'm just gonna go ahead and leave this on and let it bake for a little bit.
All right, so we've done lots of processing going on. I really like the blend. Of course, you know, we had that little hiccup with the spotting and just the uneven deposit. So now that that's all fixed, we're doing the pre-tone, we're waiting for it to do its thing. We're gonna 100% dry her hair, and here are my thoughts so far. We'll see what my final toner formula is, but I'm thinking we want to do a root shadow because overall we're trying to achieve this blended, almost kind of ombre look. So I think I'm gonna go in with 6 NUA and 7 SM as a root tap and blend it into 8 SM, maybe a little bit of 10 SM. I don't know. Let me know down below in the comments what you think I should do in order to get like an ombre silver shade out of this. Alright, so we got her pre-toned and look at what that's looking like. I think we got a really nice canvas to start off with. And now we're gonna do her final color mount. So what you can see here, she's still got a little bit of warmth kind of going on right in there. With the 6 NUA is gonna take care of that. But we got a really nice blend. We don't have like a harsh line of demarcation anymore. So it looks like she just has highlights. So I'm really excited about this canvas. We did follow up with some more K18, of course, and then now I'm going to put in Frosty equalizing spray before we go in their final color.
I'm so excited about this canvas, and the porosity equalizing spray is going to definitely help. So in order to basically mitigate some of this warmth that we have from the highlights, totally normal, we're going to just layer in that 6 NUA right back on again. So keep in mind, she's a natural level 1, so I even could have technically gone down a shade darker, so used a 5 NUA. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of hairdressers make, is not going dark enough to match the client's natural level. So I, again, could have gone a little darker, but I was blending this into a level 8 and 10, so I didn't want to go too dark. So I'm basically just taking that 6 NUA, I stroked it up a few inches and then combed it down, and then I mixed up my final color, which was demi-permanent 8 SM with 10 SM, equal parts with 9 volume developer, and I just went through section by section, making sure to layer in the 6 NUA again and combing that down, and then layering in my 8 SM and 10 SM right onto where the old line of demarcation was at, and really just working it in with my hands and trying to blend as much as possible. I usually use a combination of my fingers and my comb and my hands, and I really just like to work the product in, and I take my time doing this process because it's demi-permanent from Kenra. It's non-progressive. I know that it's not going to keep per se getting darker. It's just going to keep depositing this silver tone that I want. So definitely taking my time on this. Now for the front area, I went in with diagonals because I wanted to make sure that I got the proper amount of blend that I was looking for. And keep in mind, how you apply your toner is basically how it's going to turn out when it's all done and processed. So I'm actually going to process this for a full 20 minutes room temperature. Keep in mind, this was 1-to-1 on dry hair, so you're going to get that max deposit out of this color. And a lot of times I find that when we're doing silver shades, sometimes you just got to apply it a second time. But I felt overall we got really lucky with this canvas. She was actually really happy. We were tired because we were on hour 6 at this point, so she just kind of wanted to call it a wrap and basically wait to come in so we could get a better blend the next time she comes in. So we'll spend another 6 hours, but she was overall really happy with the fact that we were able to diffuse that harsh line of demarcation and just get a softer blend. That ultimately was the goal here. Now check this out. This is the lighting that where the window was at. So with the natural sunlight kind of coming through, look how silver it kind of looks right here. And then look how when we pan over to the other side where it's the salon lighting, it starts to get warm. And I really love showing everybody this because there is a huge difference between indirect lighting or natural indirect lighting versus the salon lighting. So huge difference. Here is the final result and the final blend. Honestly, super happy with this. She was happy. I could have probably did one more, like I said, layer of toner on it, but she was happy. She was like, no, this is perfect. I'm happy with it. And she's going to be able to maintain this at home for the next 10 to 12 weeks. So just to give you a little recap, I used K18 throughout this entire process. Kenra Professional Everything from Beyond Bond Lightener with 20 volume, rapid hydration, 6 NUA, right to blend that line of demarcation twice. And then we used SV rapid toner to pre-tone, and then did her final color melt with 6 NUA and into 8 SM with 10 SM in demi-permanent. So all of my toner formulas or demi-permanents were mixed at a 1-to-1 mixing ratio with 9 volume developer. How do you think I did for 6 hours? I feel like I nailed this. I don't know. She loves it, so that's all I care about. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of this look.
Whew. That is a wrap. I'm really happy with the end result. She is too. Now, as you saw, there was a little bit of banding still kind of going on around the back area because I took larger sections. And the whole reason why we didn't put as many foils in the back is because we wanted to kind of cut some time because she wanted to sit in my chair all day. Needless to say, it did take 6.5, maybe 7 hours total, and our goal was to do it in 4, and we did not meet that goal whatsoever. So had I put in the same amount of back-to-back highlights in the back, this probably would have been a 12-hour day for sure. So it's kind of nice that she doesn't have to be here all day, even though we were here all day. So she's gonna come back in 8 weeks. We're gonna touch her up and really pack in those foils in the back. But besides that, we got a gorgeous blend. I mean, honestly, the top, you cannot tell she had a bleach and tone. So now we've transitioned her to highlighting with a color melt. So she's really excited. She's only gonna be in here every 8 weeks or so. Honestly, I feel like very accomplished with this gorgeous silver shade. Super happy. She's going to continue to take care of her hair with K18 at home and all of the condition treatments, the home regimen that I gave her. So I'm really excited. Something that she does use regularly is the Matrix Brass Off. So I actually love that shampoo. I think it works great for her. So I've given her some take-home instructions, and we're gonna work on growing out some of that breakage as well. So overall, super happy with the end result, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. If you want more free education sent right to your inbox, be sure to head on over to MirellaManelli.com.
What's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm so excited because I'm going to be working on this glorious head of hair that needs a color correction. So we're going to be attempting to take out her really grown out dimensional gray that she has going on, and then some old color highlights. Honestly, I don't really know what she has on the ends of her hair, but we're going to figure that out today, and we're going to try to get her to a dimensional white highlighted blonde. So that's ultimately the goal here. I'm gonna take you on this color correction journey with me because this is a doozy, let me tell you. It looks like it could be simple, but it in fact is not. Before we jump right into this hair tutorial, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. Now let's go ahead and get started. Now before we jump right into this hair tutorial, I have to tell you this client actually found me from YouTube, which was super exciting that she watched my videos and she liked this white tone that we achieved. And unfortunately, this look is a full-on bleach and tone, and I think what she was really wanting was some highlights. So that's kind of what we decided on doing today. Again, this is a correction at best. So let's go ahead and jump right into her full-on before shot so you can see for yourself exactly how much work this was. As you can see, she has a lot of roots going on, and she's naturally pretty dark here. I would say she's living in that level, natural level 6, but she has about 50% gray towards the top, maybe even some areas 75% gray, and then sprinkled with some 25% gray. She's got lots of different types of patches going on and super warm ends. Her biggest complaint was that she's been going to the hairstylist, and for some reason or another, they cannot remove this brassy yellow tone that she's got going on. And I think kind of what I was gathering from her consultation, because honestly she loved that bleach and tone look, but she also liked the look of the dimension from highlight pictures that she had shown me. So I decided to go in with this back-to-back baby light technique in order to remove a lot of these yellow tones, as well as create a blend so we can get rid of this line of demarcation going on. Now, I'm keeping this application as simple as possible, even though I am doing back-to-back baby lights. This means I'm going to be taking down a slice and then highlighting right on top of that with this Dreamweaver comb. So this is very little hair in between. Now, I have a confession to make. I am totally kicking myself by not really paying attention to the key thing that she told me in the consultation, which I actually just told you, which is her hairstylist was not able to remove this yellow tone going on the end. So that was a huge indicator for me that I did not pay attention to during the consultation, that I should have prepped her hair with a hard water treatment, or even at best a Malibu crystal gel treatment. I always do that, and for some reason or another I did not. So you'll see as I'm working through this platinum card baby light, you're gonna see that I have a lot of yellow to fight through. So that is just an added tip. I would have used the crystal gel from Malibu before I started the service. For my lightener of choice, I'm using Kenra Professional Beyond Bond Lightener with 20 volume developer. I'm using this lightener because I like the bond technology. It's going to give me the protection I need. And since it's going to take me a minute to add in all of these foils, I like a lightener that's going to give me the protection. So once I have those two quadrants in the back completely foiled up, I'm now going to marry these sections together. So that way I can just kind of work from side to side at this point. So everything that's on her head is completely horizontal. I cannot stress that enough. Anytime you are wanting a blanket coverage or you're doing a correction, you want the best blend possible, horizontal is going to be your best friend. Also, complete side note here, I am taking pretty wide sections, and I was trying to get real creative with using these Fraymar traditional sized foils, and I was epically failing at breaking out of my shell and using these super wide foils. So basically, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. And so I decided to just go right on back to using the smaller foils, because I just realized I like control. I like to control my section as much as possible. And when I am losing control of my section, I feel like it's just not a clean highlight. Anyways, let me know down below in the comments if you are a control freak as much as I am when it comes to your sectioning, or are you just kind of like a free form type of highlighter and you don't care how wide your foils are. Anyways, I basically went back to going in my quadrant here. So I don't like to work in spaces that are wider than basically a peace sign for myself. That's the old school way of foiling, and I just find that it works best for me. But everything here is either horizontal, slightly diagonal, and then I always finish back to horizontal. Now, it's really important to understand your foil position, and your foil position is going to determine the type of effect that you're going to create. I am hosting a class on June 12th of 2023. So if you want to take advantage of the few in-person hands-on classes that I'm offering, you're not going to want to miss this class. So all of the links to all of my in-person education as well as my courses you can find in the description of this video. Now that I have the entire back foiled up, I'm going to move on to the front section. But here's a really good view of my entire placement, plus that little weird thingy in the middle. I don't know what the hell, like I said, what I was doing. So right here on the front hairline, I typically like to start, unless the hair is super fragile. It is not on hers. And plus I'm using that Beyond Bond lightener, but I am going to go in with a diagonal section or something that's more along parallel with her hairline. Now I know you can see that I have a little bit of lightener on her skin. There is no hair living behind this, so this is not going to bleed because there's nothing to bleed onto. This is literally like a slice right here on this front hairline. I find that going this blonde, most people that want to be this platinum of blonde, I end up just kind of taking out a good 1/2 inch of a sliver and just slicing that completely blonde right there. And then from here, I'm taking diagonal forward sections. Now there is a difference between diagonal back and diagonal forward. I actually have another hair tutorial that's super old on my channel. I'm actually going to link that video as well in this video, so that way you can really understand the foil placement. I can't stress that enough. It makes such a huge difference, even when we're doing something so blended like this. Another little added tip here is that you will notice that on some of these pieces, I am pulling the lightener all the way through, and sometimes I'm just kind of bringing it halfway down. The part that's kind of determining that for me is you can see there's some like really dark pieces kind of going on the ends, and that's why I'm choosing to just go ahead and pull it through. And then you're going to see a little bit later when we do our foil pull, I'm then going to add even more lightener because that yellow just was not budging. So once I got both sides completely applied, I'm now finishing this very top section, still taking the same type of back-to-back platinum card baby lights throughout. But she was a little bit blonder here, so I did leave her ends out more so on this top section. This took me well over an hour to apply. I would probably say an hour and a half. So that's how long they've been sitting in the back. And now that this has been going on, I have been periodically checking the back foils, but I was using 20 volume. It is a bond building type of lightener. I'm not too concerned with it. I've used it so many times. Her hair was in great condition. From here, I'm using my Fremar bleach blenders. These are actually really great for just removing lightener. When I feel like the lightener is done, I simply just wipe it clean off and let it dry out. I do not wet my lightener. That's a huge tip. If you do wet your lightener, you're just going to continue to allow it to process. And in order for it to stop, the best way about it is to just let it dry out, because once the lightener's dried out, it's not going to keep working. This is a point where I was actually really excited. I loved the amount of lift we got, but like I mentioned, those ends, the hair that was left out still was really yellow. So I am going to mitigate that. But even with what I'm about to do next, okay, because I didn't pull the lightener through all of the ends. I thought it was just going to be a simple, like, little touch of lightener on the ends and it was going to be fixed. But that is not what happened in this appointment. So unfortunately, I couldn't get her white like we originally had planned. Once the back was completely done processing, I took her back to the shampoo bowl. I rinsed that out and did a little shampoo as well. And now I'm prepping her with K18 because I'm getting ready to apply more lightener onto her ends. You can see how vibrantly yellow they are. They just are super, almost kind of have this slight orange cast to them. And in order for me to get a white toner shade, we need to really try to cut through this as much as possible. While I was waiting for the front hair to process, I went ahead and mixed up Kenra Professional Clay Lightener 1-to-1 with 10 volume developer. That's going to give you the maximum amount of strength out of this lightener. Anytime you are trying to decide how strong something is, just remember all of your ammonia or the product or ingredient that's making your lightener actually work is in the powder or it's in the tube. It's not necessarily your developer. So your developer is just kind of like the driver there. And since I am doing a wet balayage, I just thought 10 volume was going to be the best option since we just put on lightener and it was on her hair for such a long time. So I obviously need to be really careful, but this was just used as an additional tool to create more blend than what we achieved just with that platinum card baby light. This is just to try to bump those ends as much as possible. So I'm just going section by section in the back and being really careful here. But overall, I like the blend so far that we got going on the top. However, once this is done processing, I am going to walk you through something even more advanced to blend in the line of demarcation between the highlight and that natural hair and the gray hair and all of the different colors she has kind of going on. We're doing a full-on makeover on this hair. This is a pretty big appointment here, but this is not an appointment that we would repeat the same steps again and again. This is a one and done, and then from here on out, it's all about the maintenance. Okay, here is a little peeky peek of one of the last sections I did. I can definitely tell we need to let that bake a little longer. This one looks pretty good. Still need to let that bake, but these side sections, This is what it should look like when you know it's done. It needs to be a nice level 9-10. That's a 10. So we're going to take her back to the shampoo bowl and start rinsing out this bad boy. Once the foils were removed and I shampooed it, this is the freaking canvas I have. I added some more lightener on the ends to try to budget, but yellow, yellow, yellow. This is what's telling me hard water treatment, you guys. I should have done this hard water treatment beforehand. And I did one after the fact, but the damage was done. I basically told her next appointment, we're going to do a hard water treatment and then we'll do a little bit more lifting and see what we can do after the fact. And this is just like a huge little reminder, you know, I need to remember those key things.
Hard water,
says,
minerals,
I mean, my hair and
products,
I mean, you
name it.
Yellow,
like it can make such
she's
a
probably
huge
got a hard
impact
water
in blonding.
situation going
So
on
this
at
was
her home. Again, a little learning lesson that I should just have really paid attention and did what I normally do when I have a new client, which is prep the hair with Malibu C Pro products. It's just a given. But anyways, past this fact, okay? Like, let's say this is realistic, real life client in my chair. I now need to blend this line of demarcation. So what I'm using on her is Kenra Professional Studio Stylist Express. I'm using straight up 9 ash on her, equal parts with 10 volume developer. I'm not looking for a lot of lift, and this Studio Stylist Express is a 10-minute permanent hair coloring system, and I love applying it onto damp hair as a base break lift and tone in just 10 minutes. I'm like absolutely obsessed with SSE. As I'm getting the roots on, because I want this all to kind of process at the same time, plus this SSE does work in just 10 minutes. I'm also using Rapid Toner, which works in 5 minutes or less. So I'm blending that right into demi-permanent, Diamond Frost, and equal parts of VP and equal parts of SV Rapid Toner. So it's giving me that violet pearl with the silver violet tone, and the Diamond Frost is kind of like the sheer iridescent finish. And I'm blending that all in together. And this is how we were able to get this beautiful, seamless end result and a ton of control with all of that slightly orange pigment we had going on. Now, this definitely was no easy, simple tone, and toning hair is one of the most difficult things to master. And if you want to learn more about how to tone hair, I do have the Ultimate Toner Guidebook, which comes with 9 pages of toning tips, 6 mini videos, and a PDF of over 150 toner formulas. And if you want to learn more about the Ultimate Toner Guidebook, it is a super low, affordable price. You want to check out the link down below in the description. Here is a little glimpse of it dry indoors. Now, this is really important for me to show because it does look totally different indoors versus outside. But I absolutely love the blend that we got at the root area. I think we got to a really great place for our first session. I did explain to her that the next time she comes in, we're basically going to pick apart the little pieces that I wasn't able to put into a foil and then just try to lift it. And that was the best way that we could really go about this in order for her to maintain the dimension that she likes, but also kind of giving this illusion of that bleach and tone type of effect that she wants. Here's what it looks like outside in natural indirect light. You can see a lot of those cooler tones kind of popping off in the light. And that's why I like to show the difference between indoor and outdoor. It's really important for you to show your client that as well, because it makes a huge difference of what it looks like inside. Now, I am so excited actually with this end result. I thought it came out really beautiful. I was a little bummed that we couldn't get her to that true white shade, but lesson learned. Gotta do that hard water treatment before you even get started. It's gonna be such a lifesaver for you. And actually, she did come in for a second appointment 6 weeks after this, and we actually really perfected the end result. There still was a little bit more tweaking that we had to do, but overall, this was a great first session. She loved it, and she is on a maintenance schedule now for every 6 weeks. And basically what I want to get her to is just being able to do a color melt of that 9A into that demi-permanent every other time. So we're not having to do highlights every single appointment. And here is a little side-by-side. It's not my traditional side-by-side, but at least you get the idea. Look at the huge difference. I'm going to put all of the details to everything we did down below in the description. You were so invested in this Platinum Card Baby Light White Hair Transformation Base Break. I mean, we did the whole shebang on this client right here in this video. So if you haven't watched that video just yet, make sure you go watch that one and then come back to this one, because this appointment today is basically just a maintenance appointment. It's my client's third visit with me, and I want to walk you through just kind of the whole journey of what a color correction turned into a maintenance appointment looks like. So I'm so excited to show you exactly what this looks like, and a lot of you just loved the end result that we got from that Platinum Card Baby Light. So I'm excited to kind of walk you through what a base break looks like, how it fades. I always get tons of questions when I do a base break formula, like, is it going to give me a hard line of demarcation? Is it going to be too warm since we're lifting and depositing? Is it going to fade warm? Is it going to look brassy later? What does it look like after the 6 weeks? Well, in this video, we're going to be breaking that down because she is coming in for her third appointment with me. We're just doing a little maintenance color melt formula using the same base break and tone formula. So I'm so excited to walk you through this entire process. I'm so happy that we got to this point today. And if you're new here, my name is Mirella Manelli. I'm a hair educator and salon coach, and I'm so excited to get this video started. But before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. Now let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here it is. Here is what a 6-week grow out looks like with the base break and a baby light. Not too bad. The grow out looks beautiful. And of course, this is done outdoors in indirect lighting. We got some yellow ends that we're battling, which I'm not too excited about. This has been kind of like the issue since she's been with me, but we are on the right track. So today is all about fine tuning. We're not going to do any highlights. We are just going to be doing a color melt formula, but after we went indoors, of course, it looks a lot more yellow, and this is a perfect opportunity to educate your client on the difference between indoor and outdoor lighting and how much different it's going to look, because most of the time, let's be honest, our clients are looking at their hair indoors. So I know we need to mitigate a lot of this yellow that's happening, and we did have a little bit of discussion about hard water, which I'm going to get to in just a second. But overall, a lot of you asked what the grow out process was like for a base break. And you can see it is not warm. There's not a harsh line of demarcation. We're just simply battling these old yellow ends that she's had prior to her even coming to me. So we're going to be prepping her hair today with a hard water treatment, because I just wanted to see if that may be the issue, because in Southern California we have lots of hard water. And I'm prepping her with the Undo Goo from Malibu Sea. It does have a pH of 9, which I love because it kind of fluffs open that cuticle just enough to allow for whatever treatment that you're going to put on. So I'm really focused more on shampooing the mids and ends. I'm overall just focused on the areas where that yellow tone is at. So that's why I'm using my fingers, just making sure that the shampoo is going to be doing its job. And then I do a thorough rinse out of that. And then from there, I'm going to be using the Malibu Sea hard water treatment. So this is really easy to apply. You're simply going to open up this packet and sprinkle it right on to the hair and then work it through. And you can see I'm really kind of agitating it with my hands, just working it in. I like to section it and just really take my time with this process. And overall, you're only going to leave this in for about 5 minutes in the bowl. It does work pretty fast. And another thing that just to note that what this will do, it will remove old toner. So just kind of keep that in mind if you are going to do this hard water treatment. It's almost kind of like a prepping tool also to reapply your toner. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. So once you're done processing it for 5 minutes, you're going to rinse it out pretty thoroughly. And I usually like to just kind of open this up, see what's exactly going on inside. I got some brightness out of the blonde pieces. And then from here, you can kind of start to squeeze out any remaining product. And usually this is a different color, but you can see she didn't have like a hard water issue. We at least debunked that, and that's okay. But now we got this nice extra yellow canvas to work on, which is totally fine. All right. For her toner, we usually do 9A in Studio Size Express. It's this little guy right here. So we're definitely going to be using this. I love this. As you know, I've used this as base break formula many times. I used this on her last appointment as well. And I've used
SSE many times in my feed talking about base breaking. So it's gonna lift and deposit all in one step. This is a permanent hair color. We're gonna mix it up 1-to-1 and with developer, because this does have ammonia in it. Again, lift and deposit in less than 10 minutes. And then I'm gonna blend it into 10A with Diamond Frost. So let me find that color. Out we go. So you can see Diamond Frost lives right next to the clear, because it's almost like clear, but it has like this luminescent kind of tone to it, which I really, really love. And now that I'm looking at this, I feel like the 10A and the 9A are gonna blend in beautifully together, but I don't wanna go gray. So that's why I'm gonna hollow it out with this Diamond Frost. And I think I'm gonna put a little bit of 9PV in there. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a little bit of pearlescent violet going on in with this 10A. Like, how beautiful does that sound? So that's what we're gonna go with. And let's go ahead and mix this up.
You're on TikTok? Serious? Yeah.
Dead ass. All I see on my TikTok right now is, got a white boy on my Rasta. He's feeding me lobster and pasta. Okay, that's one formula. He said cash out Brazil. Matter of fact, scratch that. I'm gonna send you a stack because you fine as hell.
When you eat it, don't you think it's just overwhelming sometimes?
No, not if it's cooked just right.
Exactly. It's delicious.
And you know what? I don't even like butter and all that shit. But
that's the only way.
Lobster and butter in my mouth.
I hope you include the audio in your YouTube video.
Now, because she is a little bit darker in the back, I decided to start in the back, and I like working in vertical sections. This is kind of like my go-to when applying toner. It softens the line of demarcation on how it's applied and how it processes, and I'm just working this product right on through. So I'm doing this on damp hair right at the bowl, and then as soon as that's applied, I'm going to have her lay back down, and then I apply it towards the top. Now, just keep in mind, this Studio Styles Express does work in 10 minutes, so it's pretty fast. And a lot of times when I'm using it on damp hair like this, it's kind of like up to 10 minutes. And another thing to keep in mind as well is that your toner can process up to 25 minutes. So you really kind of want to, time each product that you're applying at the right time, if you will. And because we're dealing with like a more pastel shade, I'm immediately going to apply this toner formula onto her ends. So once I get this right onto her roots all in the front, and again, this is going by pretty quickly. I'm getting this on in about 5 minutes. I'm going to just comb it right on through. And after I drag that SSE right on down past that new growth area, I applied the demi-permanent, and you can already see how beautiful this is turning out. It's processing, it's lifting, it's depositing, and then we got this gorgeous deposit onto the ends, highly neutralizing a lot of this yellow tone. I'm really excited to see it at this point because this is the exact shade that we're looking for to help kill all of this yellow. So I decided to go ahead and shampoo her hair. Now, normally I do a rinse out with my toners, but I decided to shampoo this because I am dealing with permanent hair color. You don't want to leave ammonia-based hair colors onto the root and not shampoo it out. So this is what it looks like wet immediately after we were done with the toning service, but you can see we got a nice blend and we got rid of a lot of those yellow tones. But keep in mind, this is indoors under a yellow light, so we're going to see yellow even after we start drying it here. So this is, again, a perfect opportunity for you to educate your client on the difference between indoor and outdoor lighting. But you can see we got a really great lift in the back and kind of this nice blend into that platinum card baby light that we did just 12 weeks ago. So there's no highlighting done. We got this beautiful white silver shade that neutralized all of those yellow tones. This is going to fade out really beautifully. I will see her back in another 6 weeks to go ahead and apply the same 9A SSE formula right at her root. I mean, look how beautiful that is. It's just lifted and deposited into the nicest, coolest shade possible. And what's amazing about this entire process is we've truly eliminated the need for highlighting her hair and applying lightener every single appointment. We are simply adding in this permanent shade to blend in her gray and then tone those ends. So I really hope you enjoyed this hair video, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and comment down below what your favorite part of this entire video was, and I'll be sure to respond. You can find me on my other social channels like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all under Mirella Manelli. And if you want free education sent right to your inbox, be sure to sign up for my newsletter at morellamanelli.com to learn all of the amazing ways that you can work with me, my courses, all of that good jazz. You can find all of the links as well to everything we talked about in this video down below in the description to check out some more behind the scenes, bloopers, just like random crap that happens creating these YouTube videos. Make sure you join me in my membership site right here on YouTube. There's also some like formulas and early access to a lot of these videos too. So that's kind of like honestly the best perk of all. I will see you in the next video.